Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Wargame, where today what I have for you is a 10v10 tactical on Mudfight, and we're following Janiski. He's using a Finnish Polish tactical unspecialized deck, so no real promotions anywhere, unless of course you pick the higher veterancy options, which is going to give you some buffs, but he went for a more general rounded deck, with a particular reason in mind, and that's going to become obvious as the game progresses. Now this fortunately is not one of those tactical games where you have almost no points, where you have about 300 points to start. This seems to be one of those where you have about 500 points to start. So he's able to deploy a Super Puma, of course his command vehicle, mandatory, a T-72 M1 Wilk, XA-180, Scott 2A with infantry inside, and he's going to spawn some more stuff in. Now he notified the rest of the team that he's going over here into Alpha. And Wetlerus, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yep. Wetlerus is saying that he's going to provide support with Ondavas both here and there. Oh, and on the left as well. So basically all over the map. Alright, is he going to get any further support? Yeah, we got Juva going in with a BMD-2. Almost elite. A couple of BTRDs as well, which are elite. So that's going to definitely help. And over here, a couple of Gammas and Mi-17s. Interesting. Also a lot of ground vehicles being mobilized here. This is Lover Jailbaits 90. It never ceases to amaze me what kind of nicknames people can come up with in Wargame. It seems to be more so in this game than others. I don't know why, but I don't know, it's just the way it is. What does concern me, however, is the utter lack of units over on the left. They got a T-72M, they have a recon, and another recon, and that, well, concludes the left flank. No anti-air, no super heavy tank, no ATGM units. They better win fast over here in Anna, or they're going to get kicked out of Fedor and pushed back into center, and then, well, probably defeated in Boris. In that order. It is, however, going to be contingent on whether or not blue smells weakness. Sometimes it's entirely possible to hold off an assault with nothing. And that sounds a bit contrary, a bit contradictory, but it's entirely possible. If the enemy does not know what you have, or rather if the enemy does not know that you don't have anything, then you can perfectly hold them off, just so long as they don't advance. Now, we got a bit of a meme patrol going on here. Star 77 is circling behind the Blue 4 air spawn with, don't laugh, 4 MiG-23 MLDs. Rookie. This is a bit unusual. They do have pretty good air-to-air missiles, albeit short range. And look at that, they have found a Nighthawk. The big question is, can they continue to spot that? And can they get a hit on it? It is an interesting tactic, I'll give you that much. No, they are getting shot at, though, from Elena. Now, over to a more interesting point, where Lovebates has been able to get his Commandosi into Suicide Town. This area of the map, generally referred to as Suicide Town, is very hard to get into, and almost any unit that gets into that position, especially early on, gets subjected to a lot of fire. This time, that is no exception. As we're looking at fire from Comvats, there's a double small team over here. That's an AMX 1390. That could very well be a CEV. Yep. That's a lot of firepower. There's not a whole lot of Commandosi left. But the benefit of this event going on is that all of these units are getting pinned down. Especially these two Buratinos are very helpful. And that allows Janiski over on the far right flank to start capturing a lot of terrain. He has his Erics dropped off by the helicopter, the Super Puma over here. And a bit more infantry, which is currently being rerouted. He also has his tank over there, a T-72 Wilk. There's a T-72 Copa, the BMD-2 with its autocannon. VDV-90. 2 ROMs, in case the enemy decides to go in here with a strike package. Whether it's an F7 or an F-117 or anything else doesn't really matter. Although, of course, the F-117 would be the nicest to kill because it is so incredibly dangerous. Now, it seems like not a lot of the Commandosi have survived. Lots of infantry died in these buildings, but not without doing their fair share of damage. They were able to at least delay Blue Force incursion into Anna, and potentially to kill off a lot of vehicles as well. They scored 670 versus 340, but I'm sure it's not all here. Over on the left, there's now also a T-72B1. But Blue does not care about the left. Blue pushes right through the middle. STRF 9040s coming in. The Ondavas seem like they're... Oh, sorry, the Danas seem like they're trying to keep them at range. And to my great surprise, this thing doesn't actually drive into the forest. It just seems to be sitting there mostly. Look at this collection of vehicles. That's 2 M1A1HCs? That's ambitious. They're just sitting here out in the open. Apparently not even sure what to target, because this one's looking right, this one's looking left. We got a Kyler, AMX-13. Yeah, it's a ragtag band of vehicles over here. I wonder what their plan is. Sheridan, Kyler... Well, they are pushing. Unfortunately, this position has, well, nothing left. Can't really blame it after what it's been subjected to. There's a few US Marines over here. Sheridan looks like it could be getting killed off very, very soon. There you go. Sheridan's dead. They really don't have much. But for some reason, they're keeping Blue at range. Mostly because Blue is making some really stupid plays. Now, Janiski at this point has really not done much. He scored 6 points. And he's decided to bypass the sector. His Wilk and his T-55 are the units which are lagging behind, as the fast motorized transports and the helicopter are surging ahead, looking to get in a flanking position of Elena. Once they're there, they can really have some fun. Of course, they gotta get there before the game ends. That could still be a challenge, depending on how quickly Red is able to mount a sort of, well, panic defense over here. I, for one, don't quite get why Pixel Killer is using his Spetsnaz GRU so incredibly aggressively. They know exactly where they are, or where they were, because they're getting mortar fire. They've spotted a Fliegerfaust, but I'm probably not too eager to use the Dragunov on it, for fear of giving their position away. Ooh, those shells are coming dangerously close now. Conqueror's M. Not quite in range, and potentially has an obstructed line of sight, thanks to these smokes. That mortar is sitting still for too long, and now the Danas are not taking kindly to that, and they're doing a lot of damage to it, stun-locking it into place. And maybe even able to kill it off. On the far right, Yanni has offloaded his Eriks. The Scott and the XA-180 are still moving up to a better position. The tank, well, tanks either, they're still moving ahead, albeit slowly. A T-72 M1 Wilk has a 60 kph off-road speed. Although, in the forests, I very much doubt that it's able to get up to that speed. Thankfully, in Wargame, it's not that obvious when a whole bunch of trees go down. I mean, it's not World of Tanks, where it's very easy to see a tree go down and then you go, aha, there's a unit there. In this game, not so much. So the T-72 is currently pretty damn capable of just pushing over to the flank. Now, I have seen plenty of Special Forces incursions over here in my day. It's not unusual for people that start landing infantry by helicopter or by wheeled vehicle. But it is very rare to see them actually use a tank. What the hell is Blue doing? This guy has three Hawks. EOTS-I Hawks running around. Who are, interestingly, still getting spotted by the Spetsnaz GRU. T-72M is trying to push forward. The TTS over here is trying to kill it off. But the missile from the TTS, the Shillelagh, is so incredibly bad that it is really not that likely to do a lot of damage to the tank, if it hits at all, and that's the biggest question. Even the cavalry scouts are using their M47 Dragon too. And the tank really doesn't take kindly to that and is almost killing them off. There you go, another shillelagh wasted. I like the M551 as a recon, but just disable the shillelagh. That is such a bad weapon. Now, fortunately, Red was able to field a bit of a defense here, so long as the enemy doesn't send in planes or helicopters. Because all we have over here is a Spetsnaz Gru team, a Skreshet, a Conquerors, and 2 recons. And that is all. Well, not counting the Gammas. Those could make life on enemy helicopters quite difficult, provided that they're not challenging Adapt to a duel, in which case they would probably lose. Now, an L19 gets shot down, and he completely 100% deserved that. Because you know, or rather you should have known for a long, long time, that there were 3 EOTS Eyehawks around here. And those have a good accuracy. They do 9 HE, and they only need to hit you once to almost entirely cripple the jet. If 2 of those hit you, well, good luck, but I don't think you're going to be flying anymore. Yanni's forces are almost in position, over on the far right of Elena. It's the tanks that need a bit of attention. So an Mi-8P is coming into position to try and resupply these guys, because this is a long stretch for them to drive. They came all the way from here, from Boris. So driving all the way, bypassing Anna, bypassing towards Elena is a long stretch. T-72 can pretty much do it at 700 kph or 700 kilometer autonomy. T-55 at 600 is going to struggle a bit more. And that's why the Mi-8 is over here. Now he's got to be careful not to start butchering units which might be lurking inside this tree line. Because the later the enemy gets the warning that there's something going on here, the better. So, while it's very tempting to move in, he's not quite ready to do it. And he's holding his units back. Which, from a distance, might look like a weird choice. But I think it's the right one. Because if you push in too early, you make it quite obvious for the enemy that something is going on. And they're going to start throwing units, probably also infantry. So that by the time that the T-72 and the Tu-55 finally arrive, there will be infantry waiting for them and they're going to get killed off very quickly. Using a combined arms approach, where you have the tanks and the infantry in a very good tandem combination, then you can seriously do some damage. The only thing that they're missing over here, ideally, would be a command unit. So that they can neutralize Elena and or potentially capture it. Now, Blue is still making very questionable choices, and that has cost them a lot of points. Red is ahead by 700 points at this stage. Blue seems to be tentatively pushing up with an M1A2, which, and I just keep reiterating this, you gotta get at a higher veterancy than this. Conquerors flies in, almost gets it. And the Conquerors is not the fire team that the M1A2 returns fire at least not yet. But the Conquerors just lost line of sight. And they're going to have to move right about now before that mortar it gets redirected. Oh, there's another M1A2 here. Lovely. Marine Jaeger. These could be a very real risk to the Conquerors. Not so much in an actual damaging role, but a spotting role. And if they spot the Conquerors, then the M1A2 only needs 1 shot. And it's end of the Conquerors. Now there's also something going on over here in Anna. Interestingly, a T-80 UK is pushing up very aggressively right into Rifleman 90. Which fortunately cannot really do that much against it. They only have 19 AP versus the 20 AP or 20 armor of the tank. But there's also a squad of US Marines which are trying to flank. So the T-80 is trying to drive back. And just note how little machine gun ammo it actually has left. It only has 10 rounds. And then another 18 rounds from the main gun. I wouldn't really send in a half-dead Spetsnaz team, actually. But maybe in combination with the tank, you can get away with it. 3 Spetsnaz. 2 versus 3. Yeah, they will probably win this. Close call, though. Shoot! There you go. Very, very close. Seriously, what is Blue doing, though? They're being kept at bay, those two M1A2s, by one Conqueror's team. That's impressive. You never quite know what the enemy has until you scout it out, or until you start, well, randomly pushing into it. But I think that once Blue realizes that they're only really facing one Conqueror's team, it's going to be a pretty painful wake-up call that they could have pushed in here a long, long time ago. Now, Red's also being subjected to HGMs, but fortunately they're not very good. If those were the Israeli HGMs, this tank would probably be dead twice over. But another missile harmlessly flies off and seems to land in the river. There you go. Alright, finally, the combined arms is just about ready. T-72 M1 Wilk in position. Tu-55 ready to spray holy hell on anything that comes too close. And the infantry, combination of Renneko-Jekeri, Grom, Spadokrationari, and the Eriks. These guys do have their Grom and their Iglas disabled, very wisely. Otherwise, jets which are flying over randomly get shot at by NTR, which could be a bit of a giveaway. We still seem to have a meme patrol over on the far right side of the map. I wonder if Star 77 actually got any points. Yeah, he got a whole 6 points. So he got part of the napalm damage done in the game. And so far, I don't think he's done much, aside from doing those air patrols. Now, if the enemy really doesn't send out any jets, then it's very hard to blame him, because then it's just not possible for him to do much damage. If the enemy is using air patrols, or is using planes of any kind, then he might have gotten a point or two more by now. What do we have here? It looks like a Leopard. Leopard 2. Same player, so probably another Leopard 2. What you got there? Another recon team? Or an HGM team? Or an AA team? Yeah, that's another option. Now, Blue is very slowly, very tentatively trying to push. The Conqueror's team has one missile left. And beyond that, they're defending this flank with a bunch of Greyhounds. 1948, mind you. And one T-72, which is not even in cover. So it is really quite risky, this position. It is very shaky. They push, and it's all over. M1A2? No, that would be a Leopard 2. Artillery fires landing right on top of the Pinzgauer, and actually not even that much on the Pinzgauer. It seems to be more going for the Granacari. Ooh, these guys really need to survive. Yeah. Alright, Yanni, let's go. Spado moving up front. Good HGM on these guys. The RPG-7 VR, 24 AP. Pretty much killing out any vehicle which they come on, let me rephrase. They're not going to kill any vehicle, but they're going to kill most vehicles with 1 or 2 shots. So it's not a bad idea to be leading with these guys. Renneko are now flanking across, pretty much starting to spawn camp, and they have already found their first volunteer. Unfortunately, it's out of range for them. Is that probably an M113? Yeah. M113 confirmed. T-72 moving forward. Might get the kill. If it gets the kill, it'll also get whatever's inside there probably. No, he's holding position. Alright, whatever spawns next will get a very warm welcome by the Renneko. And now even the Spado are just crossing the road. No cover, no concealment. Screw this. We're crossing this road. Now, at this point, an Atacams get detected. It's a bad time for an Atacams to get detected, because the Wilk just one-shot it. And now Blue is probably starting to realize that something is very, very wrong over here on the far right. M2A2 Bradley spawns in, immediately gets killed off by the Wilk, and the infantry inside also dies. F5A Puff flies over. I'm really not sure why you would want to start sending out seed aircraft at this point, because it seems like there's no bonus Blue is not really using any airplanes. Well, with the exception of a Thunderbolt, but that thing's probably brand new. They probably just bought that. I haven't seen Blue do much in the sense of airstrikes here at all. Nor in Dimitri, nor in Anna. So, with a complete lack of airstrikes, you don't really need to suppress enemy air defenses. This is a bit of a wasted unit here. Now, A-10 Thunderbolt is a great plane for situations like this. If it has a spotter. And it doesn't. So, it can only take a little bit of damage and then gets evacuated. Interestingly, without Yanni bringing his own command infantry, Elena is neutral. So they're shifting around the command vehicle. And here at least, there we go, that's a 5 plus 100, so that's a CV that died, or command infantry that died inside. Corsair spawns in and gets shot down, but it did drop. Right on top of the Renico. So the Renico have to make sure that they're getting out of that position. And now it's just finding the rest of the CVs, which might sound easier than it actually is. In the meanwhile, though, they will also be able to do quite a bit of damage against... Oh, there we are. Against any artillery units, and potentially anti-air, which are still hiding in here. There we go. Sector is neutral. Flank completed. He just killed a 5-point, so the CV is gone. Potentially mobile. At this point, blue suddenly starts to surrender. Surprise, surprise. Also because red has already scored 4,000 points versus the 2,455 from blue 4. Blue was really making some very questionable choices. No idea what they were doing. T-72 pushes forward. They don't really have anything to secure the sector with, unless somebody else is flying in a command unit. But I don't believe they are. I think they're just going to surrender one by one. That was Urshette and Wolsey surrendered. Tesla C surrendered. Yakoka, I think, already surrendered. Who else? Captain Tea Time surrenders. Second blue player. So units have now been transferred to Armo 21. And at this point it is just mostly wrapping up here. And seeing that the enemy does not bring in a command unit. Which is potentially what they're doing with this Lynx. This Lynx could very well be transporting a command unit. And the Spado are ready to intercept. They're not an anti-air unit, but you don't need a lot to shoot down a Lynx. There you go, 25 points and another 100. That was definitely a command unit coming back. So far they've killed 1, 2, 3, 4 potentially. That leaves at least another one here. I think they might have already killed another one over in Anna. The one in Dimitri is dead or is on the move. So there's about 2 to 4 command units unaccounted for. There goes the Russian dude. Ah, there's another command unit. Command M1 Abrams. Now I just need to find the last guys. Because apparently that command Abrams was not the only one in Fedor. Look at this. They are pushing with Greyhounds. I shit you not. We got 15 points units. Which are They're actually rushing? They're not very... Hold on. Okay. They have such a small gun, 37 millimeters, that only does 2 AP and 2 HE. So they actually need several shots in order to just damage this Pip 3. Look. Hits, hits, hits. Well done to the Greyhounds. I think the SU-25 took the kill. A bit of a fun police aircraft over there. There goes Armo. I'm not sure how many are left. Maybe Urash and Famished Pie? LEVMs? Ooh. Don't mind if I do. That's one. I have never seen a bunch of greyhounds actually charge a position and win. I didn't quite catch whatever happened to those M1A2s, but judging by how easy these things are pushing forward, they must have died. And look who shows up in Elena. T80 UK. This thing has seen some action because I believe it's the same T80 UK that was operating here in Anna a while ago. And still a lot can happen between this position and here, depending on how straight of a line you're driving in. If you go all the way around like Yanni, you're quite safe. If you go pretty straight, you're potentially running straight to your death. There's an... Here come the meme megs again, and they're now doing gun runs. I shit you not. Doing gun runs on the Command Abrams. Not quite getting the kill, because once again the Fun Police turns up and kills it. And I think the last player just surrendered. So, be very careful when the enemy has a flank on your position. And if it's just infantry, it is, well, it's not that easy to get rid of them, but at least it's doable. If the enemy has infantry and a tank, then the situation is quite different. And is really quite dangerous, as you can probably tell by this replay. How do you counter it? It's not that easy on this map. Ideally, just try to hunt down the units before they get close. I know that sounds very easy. Beyond that, I don't really have an idea. So I'm going to hand it over to you guys. Let me know what you think that they could/should have done to defend against this offensive. What sort of steps should they have taken? Let me know down below in the comments. And with that, thank you for watching. If you have a replay of your own, do send it in. Link down below in the description. And beyond that, I hope to see you soon for more videos.